On this episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, we've got a great interview with Ryan Deiro from the PGA Show Demo Day talking about the L.A.B putters. Of course, the L.A.B brand has taken off in the last couple of years. They've also got a brand new putter model that we talk about as well, so stay tuned for that. Plus, hey, the golf season is heating up, and so we got a couple big events in the PGA Tour to discuss and a whole lot more on this episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Hey golfers, I'm Drew Mahol, the Second Swing Golf, here in the studio for another episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Co-host Sean Bauer with me as well. Sean, it's heating up the time of year. So we've had our kind of heavy sort of new product, release season. That's kind of what January is. Moving into February now, we have the golf season really heating up as well. But of course, we were down at the golf show, as we talked about it in the previous episode. We've got some more content from that still to be released, and part of this episode is that as well with Ryan Deiro from L.A.B.
Yeah, it's warming up. I'd say Minnesota this week kind of took a turn for the worst because we were getting warm and then the cold came right back.
Yeah.
Should have known better. But yeah, the PGA Show, obviously we've had a lot of great content from it. We got another one for you today. Ryan Deiro does a really cool job of kind of walking you almost through like the evolution of L.A.B, how they started and how they got to each model until their very most recent one, the OZ.1. So really cool kind of evolution story there from, a company that's about as hot of a brand right now as there is in golf. If you're seeing some other companies come out with similar products. So really cool deep dive with Ryan down there at the PGA Show. And yeah, I mean, just it is the time of the year, I think, especially for us Northerners, where it's like you're getting the itch to get out and play. You see all these new clubs you want to try. So really cool time of the year. And that kind of brings us into, right into the turn here, Drew. Speaking of cool time of the year, Pebble Beach, one of the most iconic courses in all of golf, hosted the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am this past weekend, and they probably couldn't have asked for a better winner from among the field. You got Rory McIlroy, arguably, but if you don't count Tiger, he may be the biggest star in golf. I think the TV ratings would probably back that up, but it was a great tournament. Came down to Sunday's final round. You had him, Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka. They were pretty much tied atop the leaderboard through the first nine in the final round.
It was kind of a who's who of the European Ryder Cup team that was kind of up top there.
Yeah, and then you had some, you even had Justin Rose kind of lurking back there. I mean, Team Europe, they were feeling it, and then Rory just, that back nine he played, fairway bunker, finds the fairway bunker off the tee on 10, puts, I think it was like a 6-iron from the fairway bunker to like 18 feet, makes the birdie. Then he gets to that par. It was the par 5 14th. He cuts the corner. Just, Rory's the best driver of the golf ball in the world.
Yeah, maybe ever.
There's
a real conversation to be had about that.
He's just like it's art to watch that guy hit the golf ball off the tee, and he cuts the corner. He hits it like 340. He has a 7-iron into a par 5, puts that to like 18 feet.
Yeah. And it's not just any par 5; it's that par 5 where nobody. Such a small number of players even get there in 2, let alone do so with a 7-iron.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of guys like they get it up to the green, but then kind of that false front would catch them.
Yep.
Rory, he was close enough. He just flies it basically just over the pin, safe spot, and then he's kind of like Scotty Scheffler, where when that putter's working, he's very hard to beat.
Yes.
Let's go. Nothing has really changed in Rory's bag in terms of what's in the bag. He's playing the QI10 for driver, 3-wood, 5-wood. He's got his prototype irons that are kind of like a P730. And he's also got a P750 4-iron in there. Still playing the Spider Tour X putter, MG4 wedges. But I think the one part that stood out to me was he actually switched golf balls. Yeah,
which was, TaylorMade has some posts or some information about it if you check their pages. But I think he just put it into testing recently. Was it last week maybe? Or he swapped it out very recently. And of course is now 1-0 with the TP5 versus the TP5X. And so it kind of goes to show, I know we often try to, tell players to play one golf ball consistently. But of course, if you're going to make a switch, make the switch and commit to it as Rory did. And he saw something with ball flight or, the way the feel was, or maybe both, that made him, want to switch and try something new. And it certainly worked out for him. So we also, at the end of our tour van fittings, there's also a ball fitting kind of at the end of it there, where our fitters will talk to golfers about, whether it's budget, feel, ball flight that you're looking for. And there's, of course, so many options out there that we try to narrow it down to the one that's best for you, too.
Yeah, I think he was actually at Michael Jordan's course and just like tried it out, just tested it out. And he was just saying I was hitting these like 50, 60-yard shots. The flight was great, and I was still getting the spin I wanted. And,
right.
But yeah, it goes to show you it's playing a consistent ball, but then it's also playing the right ball for you. And that's, that kind of goes across everything in golf.
Yes.
Play the right clubs for you, play the right ball. Ultimately, this game's hard enough. Try and get you some clubs, some balls that are going to help, optimize that game. So yeah, that leads us right into this week's, big tournaments, the biggest party in golf. You got the Waste Management, the WM Open at Phoenix here. Always one of the marquee events. Seems like it's always Super Bowl weekend.
Yep.
You obviously have the 16th hole, the biggest party in golf, and yeah, should be a good tournament. I know there's not maybe the marquee names.
Yeah. I think it's always a fun one, though, because you get the personality. I know a couple years ago, you get the personalities like the Joel Damons and the Harry Higgses who put on a show on that 16th hole. But I think it's not even just the party on 16, but also the way those finishing holes can create drama has also been really evident the last couple of years. And so I think, yeah, we're in for another treat this year. That's nothing new. It's still a pretty good list of names playing. And it's always one of my favorite watches of the year.
Yeah, same. I mean, the closing stretch, 16, then you go into that short, drivable par 4. You always see drama on that because, I remember it was a Ricky Fowler a few years back. He had, like, the lead, goes, like, 3-wood off the tee and just rolls it into the water. And I was like, what? But, no, it was Sahith.
Yes.
Sahith when he was...
Well, Ricky also had and
maybe Ricky did too. But.
An issue in, I think, 2019 where he had a huge lead and then he had a triple or a quad somewhere on the back 9 down that final stretch. So, those holes are... It's one thing to have they're known for the crowd and the drama and kind of the frenzy there, but it's actually a really cool final stretch where things like this can happen where you can drive that green set up at eagle, or very easily with a couple bounces the wrong way, it could go in the water and you might be scrambling for a tricky par.
Yeah, and if you just happen to be going down to this tournament, we have our Scottsdale store down there. Highly recommend going. I got to visit for the first time this past fall. It's an incredible spot. It's, everything's state of the art. You have the putter reserve, the ping fitting and performance center, probably one of the coolest putting greens you're ever going to find in a golf store. And then obviously the selection and build shops and everything to ask for. So make sure you stop by there. And then also going on with, we have some special wedges available online. So check these out. We got one from kind of each of the 4. We got Ping, Callaway, Vokey, and TaylorMade. And they all have a custom stamping kind of to commemorate just, the Phoenix Open here. So check them out online. We'll have a little social post out on them. You'll see them. They're pretty cool. Especially if you're looking for just like a custom stamped wedge. They're super clean. They kind of are themed towards this tournament. So.
Yeah, which I know a lot of people down, especially in that community down in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, they feel pretty strongly about this event. So if you're in that area and you're kind of into this custom wedge thing, you got to check those out.
Yeah, and then we got, we are in the middle of launch season. We've had, we have a few this week. Titleist GT1 and the hybrids went on their pre-sale on Tuesday. Great clubs. I remember we were out at TPI. I was just going through, we had Emma Carpenter out there and she went through a whole fitting, did some swing reports on them. Really, really good stuff. Kind of what you expect from Titleist. Every couple of years they come out with it. The heel weight, the toe heel weight, interchangeability is big. So those available for pre-sale, available in our fitting bays. So, if you're interested in that, head to one of our stores or talk to our online team. They'll help get you dialed in. Then on Thursday, you got the Mizuno Pro S3 and JPX Forge 925s.
Those are awesome,
those will be available in stores. Those are launching. And then their Mizuno wedges go on pre-sale, the T1 and T3. I think Mizuno's made big strides in their wedge game.
Yes, they have.
So keep an eye out for those. And then, of course, I think there's one of the Vokey, the low bounce Ks, goes on pre-sale as well this week. And then, of course, earlier this week, we had the L.A.B OZ.1 officially hit the market. So we'll have more on that in just a little bit. But that kind of got me into this next segment, Drew, just before we get to that interview. So we've had all these clubs come out, and obviously, you want to test them all, but which ones kind of have caught your eye right off the bat? And then are there any that you're really wanting to test some more just because whether you've hit them already or just curious to see how they feel for you?
So I'm going to give love to 2 sort of series of products. One, I'm going to harken back to our swing report testing with Jake Montgomery with the Srixon ZXi drivers. If you haven't seen that video yet, the consistency on the spin rate blew us away. It was so good. That number, no matter if we hit it, off the top of the face, bottom, heel or toe, that spin rate didn't seem to deviate much at all. And so that was super impressive. So potentially some more testing in there to see if maybe I do a driver replacement in my bag. But also I wanted to give Ping a shout out just for the additions that they've made to their lineup of woods. We're talking about the new 9-degree SFT driver model. And then in their fairway woods, they added a 4-wood as a stock option and a 5-wood in the LST version. So some additional fitting capabilities there that our fitters have and are really enjoying from that perspective. So, and maybe it's also worth testing for me as well. So yeah, shout out to Srixon ZXi drivers and then also Ping for adding those new options.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go with the Cobra, the DS Adapt. I'm just fascinated by that hosel.
Yeah.
33 settings. When we were down at the PGA show, we got to listen to them kind of present and just kind of talk about, and once you hear them kind of explain it almost in layman's terms, it makes a lot more sense, like what each thing is.
Yep.
And, I think 33 settings is a little overwhelming, but then they kind of simplify it for you. So I'd be curious to go, test that out. I haven't hit that one yet, but that'd be one that on the driver side, because I am kind of in the market for a driver this year. I got irons last year. And then, then the L.A.B, the L.A.B OZ.1, I really like the DF3. I don't play it, but every time I'm at one of our stores, that's what I'm putting with, or up here on our putting green here in the office, I'm putting with that thing. I just love the feel of it. And then obviously getting to be down there with L.A.B, try it out in the revealer, putt with it, feel it.
Yeah.
So that'd be another one that I'd like to, actually go in and do a legitimate little putter fitting. Make sure it's the right model for me, get the right lie angle, loft, all that. So I think those are two. There's plenty more that we didn't mention. There's lots of good stuff. That's why you just head to our YouTube channel and
Correct.
You can see us. You can see Drew and Jake and Tyler and Emma and all sorts of others. Test them out.
Yep.
And so.
I mean, we got a ton more stuff coming too. I don't want to, don't want to tease what's coming on YouTube too much, but we do have. As of the recording of this exact episode, Kevin is going to be in town, and we're going to do a ton of testing of kind of, this year versus the prior year equipment. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for all of that. But and now let's get to that interview with Ryan. Again, he was awesome to chat with. A ton of unique insight and kind of the cool perspective L.A.B has on putting, and how the equipment plays a factor in that. So without further ado, here is Ryan Deiro from the PGA Show Demo Day talking about L.A.B putters. Hey golfers, I'm Drew Mahol, the Second Swing Golf, here at PGA Show Demo Day on the putting green with Ryan Deiro. Ryan is the Chief Growth Officer at L.A.B Golf, and L.A.B is something that I think we're really excited about at Second Swing. Not something, but almost a movement in its own right, Ryan. So I guess first of all, with everything that you guys have, all the steps that you've made, the popularity maybe that the brand has gained the last couple of years, a lot of people are taking notice. So could you maybe just kind of give your perspective on what L.A.B is, maybe the mission and what you guys do that maybe is a little bit different than maybe elsewhere on the market?
Sure. To put it simply, our mission is to help people enjoy golf and simply putt better. That's been one of our taglines, is you're a better putter than you think. Based on L.A.B is a acronym for lie angle balancing. So that is basically a physics equation for a putter that ultimately the player would experience the putter face staying square to the arc while in motion, so it doesn't twist or turn or torque.
Yeah, and I know that's, for me, it seems like that's something that would totally fix some of my putting issues.
Yeah.
Is that face basically staying square to the target, essentially. It seems like that's kind of, you're basically taking a variable out of the question, so to speak, when it comes to the putting stroke.
That's absolutely right. So it should free a player up to react to the target, also to be aware of green reading, and you combine that with perhaps some very light grip pressure and let the putter swing. We like to talk about shaft plane quite a bit. That helps really let the technology shine through. So those things, and most likely your putting stat should improve significantly.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the best part about this whole thing is improve putting stats, improve performance. One thing I wanted to ask you about too is this is probably almost a year ago now, or maybe even over a year ago now, we did a segment with Sam Hahn, and the CEO of L.A.B, and he was kind of upfront about like, hey, our putters look a little different. They
Yes.
look a little different. They're not the traditional blade style or traditional even mallets that you see out there.
You're talking about the first one, right?
So,
let's just,
yeah.
elephant in the room. You want to get that over with?
Let's do it. Let's just dive into the models. I mean, because they look different, but
Yes.
but in terms of the performance, it's still very much there. So I guess what would you say to those golfers that might be like, these look a little different? Why would I go into them?
Well, why you would go into them is more. It establishes a baseline, we believe. So you know where you are. If you have all these other putter profiles, right? And there's discussion of torque balancing or fitting someone with a torque profile. Well, we believe that that's a bunch of baloney, basically. First, the narrative has been incorrect on a toe hang putter, that it opens and shuts like a door. It actually closes and opens. So you have profiles that close and open, and then actually open and close. And we believe that what that does is it makes or causes a player to chase pushes and pulls constantly.
Yeah.
And so our technology provides a baseline, so you don't have to fight it as much. It's kind of like a car that has really good alignment. You're on a straight road. You can take your hands off the wheel and it's still going to go straight. You can certainly hold the wheel straight if it's pulling either direction.
Right.
But we find that just based on simplicity, if you know where you are with your baseline, you'll have your poor putting rounds will be less worse, and your good putting rounds will be that much better, just longer term.
So we talked about the models, and I mentioned the appearance and things a little bit. So we're going to start with, this is kind of based on your recommendation anyway, starting with this one.
Yes.
So the DF 2.1.
So this is the original. This was the putter that gave birth to lie angle balancing, and some consider this to be one of the ugliest putters ever in existence. But I think from our perspective, the beauty of it is what the results are. Looking at the hole, reacting to the target. This design was really all about function over form. The quest, which started with the revealer, to understand what lie angle balancing is. So the revealer gave birth to lie angle balancing and ultimately this putter. So the original one looked like a satellite dish.
Right.
And then it just ended up to apply maybe a little bit of form at the end.
Sure.
And this is the completed version, which there has been quite a few different versions of this, but they all look about the same with the bean cutout shape.
Sure.
So here's the original, which is 5 inches from toe to heel. A lot of stability there.
Yeah.
So you can miss-hit putts off the toe or the heel. You still get the rollout, still is very close to your intended line.
Yeah, that's another piece of this whole puzzle that viewers and listeners are, they're looking for that right there. The performance on the miss-hits. They maybe it's a longer putt, 30, 40 footer that you know right away, you feel it off the toe or the heel, and that thing will twist on you a little bit, or you'll feel it. And you might feel like your putting stroke also, you just close the face a ton or something like that, and it can be a big difference. Suddenly, 3-putt is right there in the mix.
Yeah.
That can help with that.
I think it's also important to call out that these other models, if you look at this one, the shaft is pretty far behind the face. That's introducing onset to players, which is a unique term. Usually they understand what offset means.
Yeah.
So when the inventor figured out, Bill Pressey is his name, by the way, and thanks to Bill Pressey for inventing lie angle balancing, a very big deal. So if you look at the way this was designed, because the shaft is way back here, something had to happen up here. So you can see that the shaft is actually leaning forward a little bit. And then one of the greatest inventions of this whole thing is this ergonomic designed press grip. So it's bored at an angle where the leading edge of this grip is right here where a normal offset putter shaft would be.
Yeah.
So that recipe together really creates, it optimizes roll off the putter face basically.
Yeah.
And enables a player to hit their line.
Yeah, that's it's a lot of maybe different perspectives on putting kind of warped into this putter. And back in the day, it was like you mentioned it was an ugly putter at first. Right?
Sure. I mean, look at it. It's got a lot of nicknames.
Yeah, it sure does. But it works, and the premise of it worked, and now that's where over the years these new models have come about. And so I wanted to bring up the next one here, which to me, I'll be honest, is a little more aesthetically pleasing.
Absolutely.
But, talk about this one here.
So this is applying, like I said, functionality over form. This is definitely looking at more of a form and design aspect here, and going with something that's edgy, still a model that is out in the world, right? It's a fang mallet.
Yeah.
And very interesting that it was built with this stainless steel insert, which is you can it's either left-handed or right-handed pretty easily, so we don't have to actually make two different heads.
Yeah, true.
So that was a very cool design. Also, a little bit less onset here, which I think was attractive to better players. That's a big jump there.
It
and
is,
just kind of awkward. So this really helped to normalize the technology a little bit more, and we noticed at a tour level, there were a lot of players that were excited to start rolling this one and had great success.
Yeah, so that's the Mez, right?
Yep. This is the Mez Max. So the original one was the Mez, which is about 20% smaller than this one. And so we introduced the Mez XL at the time because that was the model we used to make arm lock and sweeper putters.
Yep.
So, and it had 16 ports in it. Well, in the Masters of 2022, Charles Schwartzel wanted to use this putter, but he wanted it in a standard length, and so that helped kind of push that forward for us to offer the Mez Max as well, which we launched later that summer. He had a top 10 in that tournament.
That's right. That was, and it was kind of for him, a little bit out of nowhere in a sense, but you watch him make a bunch of putts.
Absolutely, it was very exciting.
That's one way to jump up the leaderboard, right?
Very exciting.
So now this is the Link model.
Okay, so
tell me about this one. This one again, it looks kind of more sort of quote unquote traditional in a sense.
Absolutely, and
so
I think
talking about how the technology is worked into there.
Sure, we got to a point where let's test out the R&D team. It's time to really see if we can make something that's more traditional in style, and so Link was appropriately named because it links the past to the present.
Sure.
So this is our connection and homage to Karsten Solheim, basically, the ping answer.
Sure.
Or even, the Newport moving forward.
Yeah.
It's the iconic cosmetic or passing the eye test every time, like very attractive looking putter for good players. And this was our version, which you can see it has a tiny bit of the offset. So we came up with this solution here so we could find the CG of the putter head. It's much smaller, of course, so less mass, which translates to maybe less stability. So this is definitely our player's model. Also, you can see it doesn't need the press grip. It's just a straight shafted, no shaft lean. And I would say one of the most challenging for our balancers to actually balance, to get them to reveal, just because there's less mass there.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yep.
That makes sense, but it'd be difficult. But clearly, it's worked, and so you found the magic formula one way or the other that he did. So now we got to get to one that I know 2024 was a big year for this one. At least I know in terms of talking to our team at Second Swing. So this is the DF3.
The DF3.
So I know I'm still holding the DF 2.1 here.
Yep. The 2.1 being our flagship, we will never stop making it.
Right.
But it was time to reincarnate the 2.1 and the DF3. And we went with, of course, a smaller, more compact design. And I think based on the lack of a pickup feature in some of these, you can still scoop a ball with the 2.1. The Mez, not really, and the Link, yes. But this one one-upped the scooping with the pickup feature, which is really nice. And we coined the term the gimme getter with that one,
of course,
which is fun. And this quickly became one of our most popular putters. So we finished 2024. This was 46% of all models for sales.
Wow.
So very significant.
It kind of it's again, it seems like it's a more compact version of the 2.1, the DF 2.1.
It absolutely is.
It just shrinks it a little bit there. Maybe for those golfers that maybe were a little bit kind of turned away by the looks of this one, can see that one and think, okay, that's the one that I can play.
Yes, absolutely. And also we had some big names that were quickly into it. Ricky Fowler's now playing it. We had Phil Mickelson use it for quite some time, and a few others. We have JJ Spawn's been playing really good. Has that in the bag. Yep. Some great players out there.
The list of big time tour players using a L.A.B putter, no matter the model, it continues to increase.
The tour validation has been outstanding.
Yeah, I think that's, you know,
and no endorsements.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You see it all of a sudden. You see someone putting for the lead on Sunday, and they're using a L.A.B.
It's pretty exciting.
It's pretty crazy. So, speaking of tour validation and maybe some tour insight into the construction here. So, we've got the Oz. I'll bring them both over here. So,
OZ.1 and OZ.1i, which we had been working on both for about a year and a half. And it started with Sam Hahn and Adam Scott playing around. They were at, was it L.A. Country Club? They were at Riviera.
Okay.
So post round at Riviera, and they're having a beer, working on some napkins, right?
Sure.
Rock and roll story, classic, right? Anyway, Adam decided that he really wanted to come up with a mid-mallet design and start with the standard. A lot of people ask, oh, well, is it going to be a sweeper model? Well, yes, it would be convertible into a sweeper, but started with this mid-mallet design. Also, he had a specific fondness for a German sports car, and he wanted the worm cam to try to represent that feel.
I see. Okay.
Or that, essence of.
Sure, sure. So now in terms of, we have Oz, the OZ.1i. So in terms of like, we're talking about the feel difference between the two. Is there a big feel difference? Because I imagine the performance probably isn't drastically different, but I'm sure the feel is the big difference here.
Yeah, the feel would be, for the L.A.B lovers out there, and they're used to that soft, gooey aluminum feel, that one-piece aluminum. You'll get that out of the OZ.1, and then out of the OZ.1i with this milled face, it's going to be very relatable or familiar to a normal milled putter.
Yeah.
And that's what we were going for. So we didn't, other than the Link.1, really didn't capture that yet. So this is our introduction to it, and excited to get player feedback. It's been very popular out of the gate. It came out really nice, looks great. It's got a medium fly mill pattern. There's definitely a click, no tinkiness, a really solid feel, and about 10% hotter off the face or more increased ball speed.
Sure, sure. So, and with all these models, one thing I wanted to ask you about was just those different configurations, right? We're talking about the, maybe a longer 38, 39 inch shaft in there, or of course the sweeper technique. If a player is really struggling, or maybe they're not even struggling, maybe they just want a new solution for putting, maybe why should they try that in a L.A.B putter? Whether it's a sweeper setup or something that's maybe different than the traditional 34, 35 inch setup.
I think for a sweeper, I would say that because it's more upright, it would be a 79.5 degree lie angle for most players that are trying it. I think that helps because it's more of a straight back, straight through, less arc.
Yeah.
I think it would help the technology be a little bit more available.
Sure.
And also the way that we're building putters in general for any style is it's different. We craft them, we balance each one of them. They're all built and balanced to the specification and the components in which it's made.
Yeah.
It's not mass produced, right? So it's tuned to rigorous tolerances. So I think that's the main difference.
Yeah.
And so whatever style the player chooses, just know that that's our dedication to the brand.
Yeah.
And we will not deviate from it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you got here by being true to yourself in that sense. I mean, the brand has stayed true to L.A.B the entire time, and
we can only make them as fast as we can make them, which is about 700 a day at this point.
Yeah.
And I know that there's competition out there, and they're definitely mass producing them. So I would say they have wider tolerances, and they're 5 out of 10 or whatever have you would be similar or stay square in a revealer probably.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, as we start to wrap up here, Ryan,
Yes.
I appreciate your time for one.
Oh, absolutely.
Making some time for us here on demo day, and us at Second Swing, we've been really thrilled with L.A.B, kind of the popularity that it's seen and kind of the validation on tour, but also just how well it's been in the our putter fitting bays for golfers. They're loving them. So I guess, is there anything else that you want to leave for the viewer or the listener here that, again, maybe they're a little hesitant to try something different here with L.A.B? I guess, what would you tell that person and what it would do for their game?
I think back to the analogy with the car, I think that's the most relatable and best analogy that we have. if you want to have a baseline and know what your putter's doing always, you can rely on a L.A.B to stay square to your arc. You can focus on green reading, and you can focus on simple mechanics to power your stroke. But really, this putter is going to function very well. And don't forget, you're a better putter than you think.
I like that, golfers. You're a better putter than you think. So find that out in a fitting at second swing for a L.A.B putter. Ryan, thank you so much for the insight
Absolutely.
today. This was fantastic.
Yeah, appreciate it, Drew. Thank you.
That was Ryan Deiro down at the PGA Show demo day. It is actually funny looking, or remembering back to that day when you were kind of communicating with him on the grounds, trying to figure out where to go, where to be, and he was texting me, and I've got the messages, but he keeps saying like, yeah, everybody keeps coming up to me asking what's going on. They want to check out L.A.B. And there was, as we were filming out there on the green, all these different kind of brands were there, and they kept kind of peeking over, saying, hey, what's going on over there? Because he had a new putter, a new model there at the time, but then also just the general interest in L.A.B is just, upward trajectory like no other right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we got to obviously putt around with all of the models you wanted to. I got to go, the OZ.1 and the OZ.1i.
Yeah.
It's the same design. One's just got the insert, one doesn't, and there is a big difference in how they feel. So if you like a little, firmer feel, kind of that milled face, a little more tradition, like I think you're gonna like that OZ.1i. But if you're someone that's looking for that classic, and now it's classic, I guess,
right,
pretty new, but just that signature, I should say, signature L.A.B feel, then you're gonna like the OZ.1. It's a little more appealing aesthetically of a model, I think, for most golfers. Although I think L.A.B's done a pretty good job of just kind of getting people to move past that and just accept, performance over aesthetic. But so really good stuff.
Yeah, I think it was funny that Ryan described the feel. I think he said the word gooey, soft and gooey as for that one. So L.A.B, I love, and we did an interview with Sam Hahn, their CEO, about a year ago now, and just the way that they've embraced kind of how unique they are, I think has helped them sort of find a really cool place in the market for putters. So and then that was awesome, of course, and we appreciate Ryan for the time. And if you want to learn any more about L.A.B putters, of course, our experts are, we're totally dialed in on L.A.B right now. So if you want to get fit, there's no better time. Of course, up in here in Minnesota, it's about time to do that with the season, hopefully around the corner here. So before the interview, I mentioned that Kevin is going to be in town this week. We're filming some content, and one of those items is a live at lunch on Thursday. We're going to have him and Tyler join to kind of talk about the best clubs so far by handicap. So that's going to be a little bit of a different perspective on just kind of their favorite products so far that have launched here in 2025. Also of note, we did some filming a while back down in Arizona when we were down at the Scottsdale store, and we got to catch up with Shane Bacon. If you know who he is, golf broadcaster, also a Ping on the Ping Proving Grounds podcast, and we tested out new G440 with him. It was his first time hitting the clubs. We were on the golf course with him, so that was a lot of fun. That video will be out on Monday, so lots of great stuff coming.
Yeah, I'll just say off the tee and with this fairway wood, there. Look out, the dude. He's got some game.
He's got game, and then he applies. It applies really well too when he's got G440 in his hands. So that'll be awesome. And then next week we're going back to Mizuno. We're gonna talk with Chris Vishal down at the PGA Show. Obviously their irons came out this week. We've done plenty of content with them, but now we gotta get his, kind of that R&D design side of things. So we'll go deep into the Pro S3 and the JPX 9254s, but then we also go into their putters. They have a new M-Craft X line coming out. It's really, really unique. So he kind of goes into how they came up with this idea and just all the different things you can do with that to fit your stroke. I think that's going to be a very interesting putter line to watch because it's definitely fascinating. Yeah, it's a very cool mix of the their forging, like it's forged putters like that are rare, and they're using their grain flow forging process that's so famous, right, in putters, but then also mixing that with like the really cool tech and interchangeability of hosels and club head designs. So it's really fascinating to hear that from Chris. So yeah, just one more reminder as well with Kevin in town this week and the live at lunch this Thursday. Make sure you tune in for that 1 p.m. Central. Submit any questions ahead of time if you'd like to through any of the possible channels, whether that's through kind of DMing us, leaving a comment on the YouTube link, if you will, on the live at lunch link. We'll get to those right away. Otherwise, this is the time of year for us where we are just absolutely unloading the content on new stuff, what's coming. So stay tuned, subscribe where you can subscribe, and again, we appreciate you for watching and viewing it.
Yeah, and I'd say one more thing on that, on the Kevin Kraft stuff. If you have maybe it's not about a current club, but you have any golf question in general. We've done these kind of Ask Kevin segments before.
Yes.
Where it's just a quick rapid fire question. We get response. If you have any fun, interesting questions you want to ask Kevin, now is the time. Send them our way. You can DM us on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you follow us, or just comment on a YouTube on our link, and we'll make sure to ask him because those are always really fun. He always gives a great insight,
and he loves them too.
And he loves them, yeah. So thanks for tuning in for another episode. Once again, just as Drew said, make sure you hit that subscribe button here. Following us on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast network. You can find the Second Swing Thoughts podcast there. And we got great content this week. Looking forward to next week. And thanks for joining in, and we'll see you then.